I still hear their whispers, Sammy said, his voice trembling as he looked at the dusty ground. They said I killed my mother. They said I killed my father. They called me a wizard. His words were heavy, like a stone thrown into deep water, leaving ripples of silence around us. Sammy was only 10 years old when his mother died. He still remembered that day. She was in the kitchen, humming a song and making his favorite yam porridge. She had even smiled at him and said, "Dinner will be ready soon." The next morning, everything changed. She was gone. Her body was buried under the red earth of their village. Soon after, Sammy's father married another woman. Her name was Auntie Kate, but from the first day, she didn't treat him like family. She treated him like a stranger. One evening, Sammy was hungry and asked her for food. "If you're hungry, go find your own food," she snapped. That night, Sammy went to bed with an empty stomach for the first time. But things got worse. Just over a year after his mother's death, his father's truck fell into the river Niger while he was driving to ABA. His father didn't come back. Sammy became an orphan. The villagers started whispering. Wherever he went, he could hear them. "This boy," they said, shaking their heads. "He's cursed. How can both his parents die like that?" The whispers got louder and louder. People started looking at him like he was dangerous. Even Auntie Kate began to believe it. She treated him even worse than before. She locked him outside at night. She blamed him for everything that went wrong. She didn't care if he ate or not. One day, she grabbed his arm so tightly that it hurt. "Maybe they're right," she hissed, her eyes filled with anger. "Maybe you are a wizard." Sammy's heart raced. For the first time, he began to wonder if it was true. "What if I am cursed?" he thought. The idea terrified him. "Devil's child," Auntie Kate spat, standing over Sammy. He was curled up on the cold floor, holding his cheek where her slap had landed. His face burned from the pain, but her words hurt even more. "Why are you still alive?" she said coldly. "You should have died with your parents." Life with Auntie Kate was a nightmare. She gave him scraps to eat, fish bones, cold yam, or leftover soup. Her children ate steaming plates of jollof rice and fried chicken while Sammy sat in the corner, watching, his stomach growling. One night, she threw a piece of stale bread at him. "Be thankful I even feed you," she sneered. Sammy picked up the bread and ate it, even though it was dry and hard. He had no choice. At night, things got even worse. Auntie Kate sent Sammy into the dark forest to gather firewood. The forest scared him. The trees were tall and dark, and strange noises came from deep inside. Sometimes, he thought he saw glowing eyes in the bushes. One night, Sammy came back late. His hands were shaking as he dropped the firewood by the door. Auntie Kate was waiting for him. Her face was full of anger. "You think you can come home whenever you like," she shouted. Sammy tried to explain, but she didn't listen. She shoved him toward the front door and locked it. "Sleep outside," she said coldly. The ground outside was cold and hard. Sammy curled into a ball and stared at the sky. The stars twinkled, but they didn't bring him any comfort. His stomach growled loudly, but there was no food. The sound of crickets and barking dogs made the nights feel even lonelier. "Why am I still alive?" he whispered to himself, tears rolling down his cheeks. Sammy tried to ask the village elders for help. He told them about how Auntie Kate treated him. But they shook their heads and said, "It's family business." They didn't want to get involved. Each night, as Sammy lay outside, the villagers' whispers played in his mind. "Maybe they're right," he thought. "Maybe I am cursed." The whispers were louder than the crickets and the barking dogs. They were louder than anything else. And they wouldn't leave him alone. That night, Sammy stared at the bruises on his arm, his heart pounding with a new feeling, determination. If I stay here, I will die, he thought. When the house finally fell silent, he grabbed his tattered school notebook, a pencil, and an old shirt. He didn't look back. He didn't leave a note. He just slipped out into the cold night. The streets were alive, but not in a kind way. Stray dogs dug through garbage, drunk men staggered in the shadows, and the cold wind made his thin shirt feel useless. Sammy wandered aimlessly until he found an abandoned building. The walls were bare, the roof unfinished, but it was better than sleeping outside at Auntie Kate's. He curled up in a corner, shivering. Rats scurried nearby, but Sammy was too tired to care. By morning, survival became his only mission. He offered to wash cars on the streets. The work was hard, leaving his hands raw and blistered. Some days, he carried heavy baskets of yams for women at the market. They paid him with coins or scraps of food. But sometimes, there was no work. On those days, hunger clawed at his stomach like a wild animal. He waited until no one was watching, then searched the trash bins near the market for scraps of bread. Even in the middle of this struggle, Sammy had one small hope, a second-hand phone he had saved up to buy. The screen was scratched, and it worked slowly, but it connected him to something bigger, the internet. Late at night, after a long day of work, he sat on the floor of the abandoned building, staring at the dim screen. He opened Facebook and began sending friend requests to strangers, one after another. If I can make 1,123 friends, he whispered to himself, maybe one of them will help me. He didn't know if it would work, but he was done waiting for life to get better. He was ready to fight for it, even if the odds were against him. One day, a notification popped up. Someone had accepted his request. The name read Jessica from Belgium. Sammy stared at the screen, his heart racing. He didn't know it yet, but that single click was the start of something that would change his life forever. Sammy spent hours on Facebook, adding strangers from all over the world. Most of them ignored him, but one day, a woman named Jessica replied. She was a teacher from Belgium in her 40s. "Hi, Sammy. Why did you add me?" she asked. "I want to learn about the world," he answered truthfully. Curious, Jessica started talking to him every day. Over time, Sammy shared his story, his mother's death, his father's accident, and the abuse he suffered. "Are you serious?" she asked one day, shocked by what he had been through. "How do you survive?" "Just barely," he typed. "But I'm trying." Jessica couldn't stop thinking about Sammy's painful life. She felt like she had to see it for herself. When Jessica arrived in Nigeria, Sammy was amazed. She was shorter than he expected, with kind eyes and a warm smile. But when she saw where he lived, her smile disappeared. "Sammy, you've been living here all this time," she whispered, her face filled with sadness. She followed him to the market where he worked, watching him clean dirty car tires for hours, and saw him buy a small meal of rice and beans with the little money he earned. "I can't live without helping you," she said, her voice firm. Jessica's decision would change Sammy's life forever. Would he finally escape his painful past, or would it continue to haunt him? Jessica's decision changed Sammy's life forever. She started a GoFundMe page to help him, and soon, donations poured in from all over the world. In just a few weeks, over 7,250 euros had been raised. With this money, Sammy was able to go back to school and finish his secondary school certificate. He had never thought this day would come. But Jessica wasn't done. She sponsored his trip to Belgium, where Sammy enrolled in university to study ecology, a subject that fascinated him. "I want to help make the world better," Sammy told her, feeling a hope he hadn't known in years. In Belgium, Sammy thrived. He was no longer the boy carrying the weight of harsh whispers and painful memories. He made friends who supported him, excelled in his studies, and felt for the first time like he had a future. It was at university that he met Sofia, a Swedish girl who shared his dreams of saving the environment. They spent hours talking about how they could make a difference. Their connection grew stronger, and before long, they fell in love. They married in a small but beautiful ceremony. For the first time, Sammy felt free, like the heavy burden of his past had finally been lifted. But just when Sammy thought he was truly free, his past came crashing back. One evening, while sitting on the balcony of his apartment, he received a message from an unknown number. The words froze him in place. "You may have left, but the curse follows you." Sammy's heart raced as he stared at the screen. Was this a cruel joke? Or was there something he couldn't escape, something deeper than the pain he had already endured? Hours later, Sophia found Sammy still sitting in silence, clutching his phone. His face was pale, his mind far away. "What's wrong?" she asked, worried. "I don't know if I can ever leave my past behind," he whispered, his voice shaking. That night, Sammy dreamed of the river Niger, the same river where his father had died. In the dream, he saw his stepmother standing by the shore, her face full of anger. Her voice was low, full of bitterness. "You think you're free, but you're not," she hissed, her words haunting him. Months later, Sammy made the decision to return to Nigeria. He felt he needed closure, to understand the past that still haunted him. He stood by the river Niger, the same river where his father's truck had plunged so many years ago. The water seemed to whisper, calling to him with secrets he couldn't understand. As Sammy stared into the deep, dark water, a chill ran through him. Was the curse real? Or was it the weight of his own guilt, the pain of memories that never seemed to fade? The last time I heard from Sammy, he was planning to visit the elders in his village. He wanted to find out the truth, maybe finally understand if the curse was real, or if it was something he had created in his own mind. But after that, it disappeared. Some say he was swallowed by the river, consumed by the very shadows he tried to escape. Others believe that he found peace, far away from the reach of the whispers and accusations. But nobody really knows for sure. All I know is this: whenever I stand by the river, I feel a presence. There's something there, something watching. And sometimes, in the stillness, I hear a voice. It's soft but unmistakable. "You think it's easy to be me," the voice whispers. And every time I hear that voice, I wonder, did Sammy ever really escape? Or did the shadows of his past continue to follow him, no matter where he went? Was he doomed to fight a battle that could never be won? Now, as I stand by the river, I can't help but feel a strange pull. There's something more to this story, something Sammy was trying to understand before he vanished. What really happened to him? Did he find peace, or was he swallowed by the very curse that haunted him? Maybe one day, someone will uncover the truth. But for now, the river keeps its secrets. And I wonder, will Sammy ever truly escape, or is he still lost in the shadows of his past?